All right, here we are with Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans beat reporter. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing awesome. You know what I say is this. I woke up this morning, so I won.
Hey, that's a great outlook to have. That's absolutely right. I'm really happy that you had some time to spend with me here. I wanted to get your insight because if you guys aren't already following Turron, you should be, because he does a great job of breaking down X's and O's, giving you inside scoop on the Titans. I know that you've been digging all over this Julio Jones trade, so nobody better to kind of tell us what happened, how it went down, how they pulled it all together. What were your initial reactions to once they finally got it done just the other day?
Yeah, initial reaction, I was just surprised that it got done on a Sunday, because typically you don't see as many deals happen like that. But it's something that was expected, and I think it was a great move. And it just shows, in my opinion, that John Robinson and that organization, they feel that window is now, and they're going to take advantage of it. And that's why they made that deal.
Yeah, so can you give us a kind of a look back on why they had a need for Julio Jones? This is a team that has been in the playoffs last couple of years, has made a push towards the Super Bowl. What is a team like them? Why did they need to add a receiver like this?
Yeah, they absolutely needed that, just because Corey Davis, he moved on. And you look at last year, it would have been the first time that they had 2,000-yard receivers since 2004, when Derek Mason and Drew Bennett did it. So I say all that to say, if you take one of those out of the picture, now all the coverage is going to roll towards A.J. Brown, right? The bracket coverage and all the attention is going to go his way. That's no longer the case, because if you double A.J. Brown, you got Julio Jones on the other side, and I know he's 32. He'll probably, I believe, 33 when the season starts. That still is a problem for most corners. I mean, let's say the man could still play football. He didn't just lose all of his ability. So even a fraction of what Jones could do before is still good enough to balance it out. So I think that's why they had to make the move. And also you got the new OC and Todd Downing, who the more weapons you could give them, the better. So you look at what they did before trading for Jones. They signed Josh Reynolds, and Reynolds was set to benefit from going against one-on-one coverage. And he was absolutely going to see that, because, as I said, A.J. Brown on the other side is going to take it all. So I think it just balanced it out. And then just to kind of add a little bit to it, they drafted Dez Fitzpatrick in the 4th round. There were opportunities to get other guys, Amari Rodgers, those types, and they passed. So I think it was just something that the whole time they had their eyes on Julio Jones.
What do you think it was that they saw in him that maybe some other teams didn't? Like you said, he's going to be 33, but he's still, I mean, he puts up numbers. He was very effective, even though the Falcons didn't have their best year last year. What have you heard from what they liked about him beyond just, oh, he's Julio Jones?
Well, they feel he still has juice left. And they also love the fact that A.J. Brown and some of the younger receivers will now have a veteran. They haven't had a veteran that they could look to and be like, this is how you go about the day as a premier receiver, not as just a guy, a jag in the league, as a premier player in this league. This is how you approach it. And it's really interesting, because I keep mentioning Brown. Well, when he was at Ole Miss, he watched Julio. Right. So this is something that's just going to continue to be built upon. And he learned a lot. As a matter of fact, their receiver coach, Coach Peeler, used to do cut-ups for A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, and Elijah Moore. And a lot of the cut-ups featured Julio Jones specifically for A.J. Brown. There's similarities. They're both bigger receivers that try to run like smaller guys as far as the routes and things like that. And that's what A.J. Brown, I talked to him on Sunday, that's what he strives to do like Julio. So it's just a refreshing type of thing as far as bringing a guy in like that.
Now, he's the reason why he wears 11 too, right? Is that right?
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, A.J. Brown was the first player to wear a current player's jersey during pregame. He came out during pregame, and I think it was 2019, and had a Julio Jones jersey on. And you got the jersey swap after week 4 against the Falcons. So, yeah, the love there runs deep. And I know that's going to push him to be better. And I look forward to seeing a competition between the two.
Do you know what exactly it was? I mean, I know he was traded. It's not a free agent move, but if he didn't want to go there, he could have tried to cause a stink or threatened to not report or whatever. There's ways that guys can use leverage. What was it that he liked about Tennessee?
Well, I think he liked the offense. He liked the fact that they're a team that's ascending. And obviously the relationship with A.J. Brown, they have a solid relationship. So those are the things that he liked. And, I asked John Robinson, because the one thing, everything right now is all butterflies and lollipops. Like everybody's, you feel it. But you got to face the facts. Julio Jones is a guy that has been fed the football at least 9 times, 9 targets on average throughout his career. That's not going to happen here when you got Derrick Henry in the backfield, a guy who needs 25 touches per game. And then you got Brown on the other side, and you got Anthony Ferguson, Josh Reynolds. We could keep going down the line. So I asked John Robinson specifically, how do they know that he's going to be able to come in here and function without getting that 9 to 10 targets per game? What's that going to be like if they lose a game and he only got 3 to 4 targets? And John Robinson said specifically, they talked about that, and 9, 10 targets is not his top goal. His top goal is winning. So as you know, winning, that solves all evils, but losing magnifies them. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic as far as just how this whole thing is going to develop.
And with the reason why Atlanta, a big part of it was money wise. Take us through the contract and how that breaks down and how Tennessee was able to take that on and what kind of savings they got because this was after June 1.
Yeah, that's something I'm really curious about, because Julio Jones is on the books. It's $15.3 million. And I wonder if the Titans were able to finagle some type of kickback from the Falcons for this deal happening, because Robinson, if you remember, made that deal for Ryan Tannehill, and the Dolphins said, hey, here's a smooth $5 million, get out of town. You know what I mean? So I don't think the Falcons will pay $15 million, but I wonder if there was some absorbing of that contract. But then the following 2 years, he has an $11.5 million hit. That's not bad for that caliber of player. And I know, look, I'm going to be frank, his skills are declining. He's, like I said, in his 30s, he's not the same guy. But even a fraction of, as I said before, of Julio Jones is still good enough to warrant, that type of money. And you could always get out of it. The cap's going to increase, and there's things you could do to rework it. And they're going to have to do something, because just putting Julio Jones in there pushes them above the cap.
Yeah. What do you think that the relationship between Jones and Ryan Tannehill will be like? How will Tannehill's game, how will Julio help his game? And I know, look, you haven't seen them on the practice field yet, but just what you know about Tannehill and his strengths versus Julio Jones's, how do you see that working out?
Yeah, I think it's going to work out well. And Ryan Tannehill has kind of morphed into a guy that he trusts his receivers. And no matter what, he's going to put it up there and give you a chance to make a play. And as a guy like Julio Jones, that's all you want. Just give me a shot. Give me the football. And I think that's why the relationship is going to work. But then also you look, he's developed into, and it's just like, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden this guy he could throw the deep ball, right? And so he'll put it up there and he'll put it on the money. And you look at that with back shoulder throws and things like that. I think it's going to be a really good relationship. And just as far as like for Tannehill's sake, he likes guys with huge catch. All quarterbacks, that's what they love about pass catch. You have a huge catch radius, and you could be trusted to come down with the football or keep it from getting intercepted. Worst case scenario is an incompletion. Yeah, those are chances that a quarterback will take. So I think all of that will work. And I mean, look, let's look at it, right? Over the last couple of years, Tannehill is going play action deep to Khalif Raymond, right? And, Khalif Raymond and Julio Jones are two separate players, but there was success there. Right. So I think that's going to work as well. That play action is a really good thing that the Titans use, and I'm pretty sure Todd Downing's going to go back to that.
How different or how similar will this offense be? And look, they have not really had a lot of continuity because they had LaFleur, and then he left, shortly after getting there. Then they had, Arthur, and now he's gone to Atlanta. What do we know or expect from this offense?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar. That continuity is something that they strive to get. That's why, some of these other candidates, whether it be Pat Hamilton or some of the others that they interviewed, that's why a big part of why they did not get the job, because they want to try to keep that terminology as similar as possible. And when you're in a scheme, right, and the whole thing is about football, you want to play it fast and physical and violent. But it's hard to do that when you're hesitating because you're not sure exactly what you're supposed to do. And I think that was a big part of it. And then it worked, right?
Right.
They were scoring 30.5 points per game last year and doing all types of crazy things. Obviously, Arthur Smith's gone, Jonnu Smith is gone, Corey Davis is gone, but I think you're still going to see similarities. Todd Downing said that, it's always easier when you have a guy in the backfield like Derrick Henry. So rest assured he's going to get his touches. I just want to see, because Arthur Smith, one of the things that was unique about Arthur Smith is even when they were down 14 points, right, and it could be in the fourth quarter, they're still going shoe to shoe and pushing that football, pounding the rock. And he just stuck to the running game. And it's something you could do with Derrick Henry, especially because, he'll get you a couple negative yards and, everybody's going crazy, throw the football. And then they'll hand it off to him and it's a 70-plus yarder. And now everything looks like it was all, kosher. And I think that's something that Todd Downing is going to have to learn to dedicate to, but not to the detriment. At times, that's what Arthur Smith did.
Right. Now, having a run game like this, Julio Jones hasn't really had a consistent running game, really. They had a revolving door at running back. They had, the year they went to Super Bowl, they kind of had a stable running game, but they've had, so I imagine having that strong running game, that balance. Yes, it doesn't mean you're throwing the ball 50 times a game, but it does mean that opportunity for big plays will be there, and that should benefit Julio Jones, I would think.
Yeah, and just to give you a quick stat, and I'm not saying it's going to be the same this year, but it's just to give you a snapshot. The Titans faced 8 men in the box 23% of the time last year. No team faced it more.
Okay.
The Falcons faced it 12% of the time last year, 16th most in the NFL. Why do I say that? When you got 8 men in the box, guess what? That gives you 1 safety up top, 2 corners. One-on-one against Brown and Jones with a safety. Okay, if he cheats to this side, this guy's open. He cheats to this side, this guy's going to get open. So that's a situation that will also help Julio Jones just as far as what he's facing.
Good point. A very good point. What do you think this does for the Titans? Does this put them over the hump? We saw them, they were in the playoffs. They fell very short against Kansas City. They got back to the playoffs. They fell short again. But what does this do for them now? And there are other offseason moves as well.
Yeah, I think this upgrades them as far as at the receiver position. Between Jones and Josh Reynolds, I think those two will be a really good additions. I still have the question, though, and if you remember when you covered the Washington football team, Jamison Crowder, right? And
Right.
It was third down. Hey, that was the slot machine. He's going to make it happen and convert. They had that in Adam Humphries. They don't really have that. There's a guy on the roster named Mason Kinsey, who was an undrafted free agent out of Barry University, Division III, who was very similar to Humphries, and they have Cam Batson as well. But I just don't see that guy that, on third down, he's going to run that jerk route, that choice route, and get open from the receiver perspective. So I think they're going to use a lot of big slots and work on separation with size as opposed to quickness. And all 3 of those guys, Brown, Reynolds, as well as Jones, you can move them across the formation, which will allow you to create matchups, kind of like what they did against the Ravens in the playoff game. They bumped Brown inside, put him against Marlon Humphrey, and that opened things up for them. But I still think the tight end position is one where I may have some questions just from a predictability standpoint. Anthony Ferkser is probably going to be the guy that is going to run a lot of those third down routes. He's not quick or fast. He knows he's developed as a route runner, knows how to use leverage and things like that. Almost like a Jason Witten type. Now, I'm not saying he's as great as him, but just like style.
Right.
So that's something, but he's typically a detached tight end. He's not an inline guy. So when he's in the game, okay, yeah, it's more than likely they're going to pass. When they bring Jeff Swaim in the game, who's their blocking tight end, some pass catching ability is like, okay, well, they're running the football. So how do you overcome that predictability? That's going to be the thing that I'll be watching. The right tackle position, you have Tyson Braylo, Kendall Lamb, they signed from the Browns, and then Dylan Radins out of North Dakota State. I think he's going to take over that job probably a quarter way into the season, week 4, week 5, somewhere along those lines. And Taylor Lewan is coming back. Their guard center guard combo, I put that against a lot of them. Nate Davis and Roger Saffold are really good. Ben Jones is a sneaky good center. So I think they're in good shape there as far as offensively. I just want to see that slot and inline tight end position. How do they overcome that deficiency?
So this their division to lose?
Absolutely. Absolutely their division to lose. And I think, when you have a team like the Colts who are putting a new quarterback in there, it's going to take a little bit for everything to get on the same page. Wentz has a completely different group of receivers, right? He's in a different system, so to speak. I mean, it's definitely something that he knows, but with a different supporting cast, you got to get that timing right. You look at speedy guys like T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, you got to understand, okay, I could put only this much on it for them to go get it, et cetera. So I think it's going to take some time, but the Colts they're a very good team. The defense with Matt Eberflus, and anytime you're strong down the middle the way they are, right, with DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard, and then the young safety out of Washington, I think Julian Blackman, I think you're in good shape. So they're a fun team to watch. I love watching the Colts.
Good deal. I want to ask you because if people don't know, you used to cover the Philadelphia Eagles, so Carson Wentz, Frank Reich. What do you think? Can Reich help Wentz rediscover himself? Is this a marriage made in heaven?
Yeah, I think the 2017 Carson Wentz is put that on the wall. It's not something that you're going to get again. And it's just after injury and then just so many different things. He was broken mentally. And the good thing is when you have your mental side of things damaged, what do you always do, right? You go to people that you trust, people that you feel wholeheartedly have your back. Well, I don't think there's someone in this world that has his back more than Frank Reich. And then on top of that, they got Press Taylor to be an offensive assistant who was his QB coach there with the Eagles. So I think they're in good shape there. It is I'll say a marriage made in heaven, right? And it's like, Wentz, he had the divorce with the Eagles, right? The differences were irreconcilable, and it was kind of like X to the next for Philly, moving on to Jalen Hurts. He got a new girl now, right? In the Colts. So we'll see how that works. I think it's gonna go well for him. I just, they have to make sure they keep him from playing that hero ball because he still has that mindset. And you can't really corral that, right? When you have a guy who's always going to play recklessly and always going to, go for that extra yard, you don't always have to do that. 2nd and 1, right? Hey, it's okay to come up short. 3rd and 1, you turn around and hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor, your 225-pound back behind that offensive line. Let him take that punishment, not you. So I think that's really the approach that he has to take. And he has to stop being more careful with the football, right? And it's interesting when you have a quarterback like that. You look at, I call it the Brett Favre curse, right? Because it's a gift and a curse. You know that your arm and your ability is going to let you fit it into that window, but sometimes when you try to fit it into that window, somebody swoops in and picks it off, and that's why you see Wentz had all those interceptions last year, and no coincidence, Brett Favre has the most interceptions in the history of the game.
Right, exactly. Good deal. Well, hey, I really appreciate your insight. I knew we were going to talk Titans and Julio Jones, and then we transitioned there. So great look at Carson Wentz, who you covered for a lot of years there in Philly. Hey, tell everybody where they can find you because they obviously are going to want to keep up with your work, written, multimedia, and everything. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, well, you can find me on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL. I have a show called Talking with TD where we talk to draft picks, various NFL players, analysts like yourself. It's just a bunch of people. You can find it on Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. It's Talking with TD. That's on there. So definitely subscribe, rate, review. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Thanks so much. And hopefully I will be seeing you soon.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.